going to look at number 10 from chapter 7. Here you have a histogram, or you've been asked to create a histogram from a set of dot plot, or from a scatter plot. And it's asking me to make it on monthly sales. That's really important because when I go to figure out what I'm going to make as my variable for the x-axis, then I'm going to have to kind of go along here and I need to figure out which variable. I've got day and we have sales. Since they said here the daily sales, then I need to go ahead and set up my x-axis expecting to look at the money and the amount of money each day and try to create a histogram, right? A histogram is made from frequency and I need how many times did they make $100, how many times they make 200, 300, 400, and 500 on the graph. And that's, at first glance, might be a little bit confusing, but really what we're going to do is we're going to take it, we're going to look at kind of in a horizontal fashion. And you can even turn your graph sideways if you want to. Not necessary, but we can look at how many times you made $100. Well, that's just 2 times, right? So I can come over here, I can make my histogram just too tall. And I'm going to repeat this process for the 200, 300, 400, and 500, just kind of going along each time and counting the number of dots and creating that histogram. All right, part B asks us to talk about some fact that's obvious from the scatter plot, but that's not obvious from the histogram. And you can probably already tell it's the positive correlation or the positive association. As you can look at the dots, we can see how the dots changed over the time, right? Because we have the day as the extra variable. So as the longer the coffee shop was open, the more money they made, right? There's a positive correlation or a positive association between the coffee shop and how much money they made per day. Part C was kind of flipping it back around. I'm looking over here at the histogram and it's asking us to say what is evident here that's not so evident here. Right? I can tell right instantly like that the average amount of money made was about $300 a day. Over here, I don't quite get that idea. I could sort of reason it out. If I looked close enough, I can see how many dots were at 300, but it's not so obvious as instantly when I have this perfectly symmetrical graph, right? And I know that this is 100, 200, 300, right? So symmetric graphs, the mean and the median are going to be the same value, which in this case are $300. For number 11, this needs discussion. It's not really any work to do. You are looking at several different R values. You have a really strong negative one. We have kind of a moderate negative one at very close to 0, and then a pretty strong positive association. And you can kind of coordinate, section us off and kind of go for the one you think is the most reasonable or the most obvious. And I can see a lot of different ways. I'm just going to start with A and work my way around. Here we have a very non-linear set of dots. When I fit a line of best fit here, it's going to try to make that line kind of horizontal. It's going to try to get in between all the dots kind of in an equal fashion. So it's going to kind of fall right in here, which means that my slope is going to be almost 0, right? So we're going to say in this example, this is going to be 0.006 because it's very close to 0 because it's a nonlinear pattern. The one thing we can see in, let's say, B is that this is a positive association. To me, this is one of the easier ones, kind of obvious. The 0.777 is here because this is the only positive one in the entire group. So, and I'm not really considering the 0.06 positive. It's really no association. Then I'm left with 2 at the bottom, where you're looking at a very negative association. Right? You're kind of seeing it go down like this. This is a weaker association, at least weaker compared to C. So D is going to be the one that's not so strong, right? That's going to be your negative 0.487, which leaves negative 0.923 as your stronger linear. And that makes perfect sense, right? That one's very closer. It's a lot closer to the line of best fit. And that's kind of how you reason through this. And you could have taken that in any order. I think there's a lot of key elements here that you can identify that are unique to each of the different patterns: strong negative, kind of a moderate negative, fairly strong positive, and then non-linear altogether. And that's number 11.